entire burying ground is called the Common Burying Ground. It's established sometime around 1660. It's actually deeded to the city in perpetuity by John Clark, Dr. Clark, the early founder and settler here. His requirements in deeding this property is that it would be what is called a common burying ground, meaning any man, woman, child or family, slave or free, Christian or not, had the right to be buried here. It's one of the earliest and it's one of the largest existing true common public burying grounds in America. This section here, this is a little bit over an acre, which we're going to tour today. By the mid-19th century, the African-American community began to call it God's Little Acre. Originally, it was a Negro burying ground. Markers that are here represent about 255 surviving markers of 18th and 19th century Africans and later African Americans. The earliest existing stone is about 1720. We have a number of stones in the 1750 to the 1780 period. Today we have about just under 8,000 documented markers. There are tens and tens of hundreds of markers that are still under the ground. By 1780, about a half of the Africans are free in Newport. So for the first time in the Western Hemisphere, in July of 1780, at the home of Abraham Casey, which is today Morro Boulevard, it would have been 11th Street, they formed the Free African Union Society. First time in history. And this society has three major goals. One, they want to preserve their African identity and culture, and they'll do that by passing it on to their children through names and learning and education. Two, they wanted to make sure that every African would have a proper burial. So after 1780, Africans that are free that are buried here, who are members of society, would actually have the society pay for their markers and pay for their funeral. And then three, they wanted to make sure they would establish the school to make sure that their children were properly educated. And by 1808, the first free African school in the Americas is established here in Newport on School Street. The best way to understand the history of America is to look through the lens of the men, women, and families who built it. This is a family. This is three generations in a family, which starts with a Arthur Flagg, also Nuba Tike, or sometimes Arthur Tike, his wife Flora, and children, and then three grandchildren who died between the ages of 6 months and 2 years in a period of a year. Nuba Tike arrives here from what is Ghana. He's enslaved by Ebenezer Flagg. Ebenezer Flagg is a cord winder or rope maker. He learns that trade. Ebenezer Flagg is an early member of the Seventh-day Baptist Church. This Nuba Tike becomes Arthur Flagg. He becomes a member of the Seventh-day Baptist Church. He's a 50-year member because we have the records, and he owns a pew and he passes it on to his children. He also becomes the early founder of the Free African Union Society. When he becomes free, he establishes his own cord winding business on Cross Street in the Point near Bridge Street. Most importantly, he also helps establish the free school. He and his son are the major teachers in the school. He's one of the most significant Africans. When he becomes free, he refers himself as Arthur Tike. Many of the Africans who converted to Christianity, accepted Christianity, were active members of the faith, and they would begin to blend their African identity with their Christian identity. Newport was at the center of the slave trade. Newport was the largest and most active slave trading port in British North America before the American Revolution. It's not Charleston, South Carolina, it's not Annapolis, it's not Boston, it's not New York, it's Newport. By 1755, 1/3 of the entire population are Africans. Even though they arrived as enslaved human beings, at the time of their death, they're recognized as significant contributors, not black or white or green or purple, but significant contributors to early Newport. And that's simply because people were interdependent, living together, worshiping together, and working together. I mean, if you're on top of someone after a while, you start to get to know them, right? These are not beasts of the fields. These are early African men, women, and families who are marrying, they're divorcing, good, they're bad. In fact, we've got some great diaries where they're fighting, and they're trying to take each other's hands and wife and such. We even have a gay relationship. This is all very important because these are human beings. It gives us an opportunity to talk about people who live full, vibrant lives, good, bad days, and everything in between. So we're not talking about a story of slaves, we're talking about a story of African men, women, and children, and what we call the creative survival that allowed them to come in the worst circumstance, but persevere and become significant contributors. Slavery is how we got here, but it tells you little to who we are as a people.